Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Abel. I'm from the IMS Global Learning Consortium, and welcome to our Learning Impact on Demand series. We're here to explore the topic of effective digital teaching and learning and what we're experiencing in light of accelerated movement to online, virtual, and distance education in the age of COVID-19 and beyond, hearing from leading IMS members who are the smartest people on the planet when it comes to EdTech. Today we have a 10-minute leadership interview on this topic. We are very pleased to have with us Suzanne Carbonaro, who is the Director of Academic Partnerships at AEFIS, a leading provider of assessment and continuous improvement software to higher education. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, Rob. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's great to have you here. What we'd like to hone in on for the audience is just simply your insights from your work at AEFIS in this unprecedented acceleration of digital learning, some done well, some perhaps not so well. The impact of COVID-19, I'm sure, will be with us for some time, and we're going to talk about your perceptions of what's happening now, what will happen maybe in the fall, and what maybe will be the lasting impact. So let's start with what we're learning right now in dealing with this unprecedented scale up of digital learning. What are you seeing as some of the highest priorities right now, or really anything that you think is the most important observations?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And I appreciate that question very much. As somebody who's spent most of her career in higher education, 25 plus years in higher ed, it's really painful in many ways to kind of see what's going on. And certainly, you know, there's that need to reach out and help. And at AEFIS, I foster communities of practice, which is often something that is used in the education space to kind of look at what are the challenges folks are having, usually around student work. How are students performing? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the best practices that we can use to kind of solve these problems, provide programs for students to improve on these outcomes? And so, as we know, and as you've introduced, it is not business as usual in higher education or anywhere for that matter, and it never will be again. And so we are beginning to do something that was on the back burner for some time in higher education, and that's the digital transformation of higher education and curriculum alignment and end-to-end comprehensive learner record as keys to this transformation. So AEFIS is an all-in-one innovation platform in many ways with integrated solutions that work together. And so we're serving higher education in their efforts to both streamline and digitize their curriculum, instruction, and assessment processes. And what we're entering right now, Rob, which is really interesting, is this consolidation market, which AEFIS is already positioned well in, given that we do a lot of things cost effectively. So budgets are trimming down in higher education, and what we've done is kind of woven together solutions that will work in concert with each other to support many of the assessment challenges our institutional partners are having. So assessment challenges, these include continuing direct assessment, providing students with experiential programming, uninterrupted, conducting continuous improvement of their programs through collective university-wide program assessment, developing assessment plans, approving new programs, certificate programs, and even engaging stakeholders in new success and strategic plan initiatives. So higher ed partners are trying to move from their more manual administrative assessment into a more digitized version of data collection and workflow models that enable assessment to continue collaboratively despite being distanced. Our partners want to assess the effectiveness of online delivery versus face-to-face, and to be able to identify those trends and areas of improvement. And since AEFIS enables partners to use these customized workflows for these assessment challenges, as well as comprehensive learner record positioned as a holistic assessment of student learning and skills recognition, we've been positioned well to support our partners in that environment. And I think, when I look at what's happening, additionally or in parallel to what I've just said, we have looked to partners in their quest to meet the needs of the changing student demographics, right? So that's the other piece that's going on. And by helping them unpack the skills their students are acquiring through their coursework, their co-curricular activities, those micro-credentials that I alluded to before, this has led to their implementation of comprehensive learner record. And because of our membership in IMS and the belief that what goes into AEFIS should come out in formats that support that learner-earner trajectory and continuous improvement, we play well with the other technology kids across the university and offer benefits that support shrinking resources and an uptick in adult learning and pay-for-play teaching and learning platforms.
Wow. So yes, that emphasis on digital transformation and streamlining just sounds perfect for sort of challenges that institutions are having right now. Do you think, are there specific areas that you think for the fall might be the focus, because we really can't predict exactly what's going to happen in the fall, maybe all online, remote, maybe a mix and so forth. Anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're listening very closely to the higher education leaders and what they're saying about their back to school plans for remaining remote, or do they have a face-to-face? I mean, it really doesn't have to be one or the other, as you just alluded to. We could have hybrid versions, certainly. But our colleagues are sharing ideas that ultimately step into revising old policies and processes to be new and aligned to what the students need, what employers are looking for in students, and how higher education can support the learner-earner trajectory, regardless of if it's going to be completely online for the fall, if it's going to be a portion of face-to-face. I mean, ultimately, they have to unpack what they're doing and be able to provide opportunities, authentic learning experiences for these learners that support that learner-earner trajectory. So what our suggestion has been, is institutions that are already in the curricular mapping stage to actually start to consider using comprehensive learner record to capture more of that holistic assessment of learning and an opportunity to kind of make sure that you're capturing those really important student records of learning, no matter where they are. In a recent article, COVID-19 in the end of the higher education buffet that came out in May, it was in Forbes, leaders call for higher education to no longer sit around and be held hostage to that traditional wisdom or tradition that they've had. In many ways, what they want them to do is ultimately stop being more in love with their traditions than they are with their own students. So we have to, as much as we'd like to get back to that face-to-face, they need to be thinking about, what's best for the student. But regardless, we have to look at ways to support our partners who are looking to, again, unpack those skills that are hidden often in those courses that they're delivering. So when I look at like higher education and their view on some of those non-traditional learning methodologies or methodologies in this case, what they need to do is think about those and align these to the curriculum and assess the effectiveness of how they're actually delivering. Some of these methodologies include different ways to access learners who are eager to go back to school, right? We saw in 2008 that need to go back to school to reskill and upskill amidst, the various I guess maybe in many ways it's like today. I mean, we saw unemployment rates kind of skyrocket and, being part of an economy that's kind of shrinking up and whatnot. We saw this in 2008, and we can look to 2008, those of us that were in higher education, to see kind of how we did. But now we're in a whole different world, 12 years later, and higher education and partners are moving into some pay-for-play systems to reach out to folks that are out there. But what we're doing is, as our higher ed partners are doing that, Johns Hopkins University being one of them, we need to be able to be there and support store and capture the learner's metadata, link them to outcomes, and give the learner the ability to share their skills with employers through issuing badges and sharing their CLR. And I think the last thing that's really, really important here, Rob, is that ed tech as a whole can serve the role of servant leader as they work to solve some of these problems in the post-COVID world. We are kind of looking at AEFIS first in line to sort of do this as a blueprint in many ways, starting with automation, quickly leading to transformation, ending with innovation of assessment processes to enhance learner success. And that's what we've been calling AEFISable for our partners in many ways. How can we take a manual process, digitize it, and make it AEFISable? So this aligns with our new partner and colleague, Northeastern University, and Sean Gallagher, who actually spoke at the Digital Credentials Summit way back in February, which seems like a million years ago. He actually reiterated this in a podcast and in an EdSurge article at the beginning of the pandemic. COVID-19 has accelerated the digitization of higher education, and partnerships with EdTech are critical.
Wow, so that really does sound appealing in terms of helping institutions, meet the needs of students who right now are kind of wondering. Many of them, the applications for financial aid appear to be down, for the fall in terms of what they might get out of their fall experience. So that's great. Now, how about further on down the line? Is it the same sort of idea, or do you have even more advanced things that will probably last beyond the pandemic from all of this?
Sure. I mean, post-COVID-19, that digital transformation of higher education, its offerings, the delivery of instruction, starting with certificates potentially ahead of degrees is one thing that I'm kind of seeing now, because you're going to see those adult learners kind of coming back and accessing higher education and the skills that they need. And so that might start them with a certificate that ultimately might flow into maybe a degree, or even the 18, 19-year-olds that are going to be accessing higher education in some format this fall. Whether they decide that they're going to go to the institution that they chose, or they're going to pick up a certificate, maybe a different way of accessing that higher ed. Higher ed needs to be ready for that and need to know how we can roll students into certificates ahead of degrees. I think skills recognition as the new focus for higher education is going to stay. Gallagher stresses that in his communications as well. The skills and the future of higher education is ultimately going to be the new normal. And the future of work has arrived early. So we take, kind of combination of upskilling the human skills to work closely with the machines and the automation and the AI that's going to be out there. And, I'm a big proponent of the liberal arts degree, myself having more than 12 jobs across my employment record, if you will. It would be a really robust, comprehensive learner record for sure. But I think, when you think about the critical thinking, the decision making that needs to go into what higher ed has to be thinking about, it's the same kind of effort in actually upskilling and offering those kinds of opportunities for the learners, right? And so I think about higher ed sitting down, coming up with multiple plans and open canvas, but they need to really ultimately answer, where is the market headed? And how can we plan with our interdisciplinary partners courses of action to reach that new higher education market? Employability, enablement, and opportunities, finding students instead of students finding opportunities. So we see that nice shift and pivot of, I have the right skills on a comprehensive learner record. It's being shared out across various social media platforms. It's being shared through credential exchanges and whatnot. And now the student is getting, kind of the cold calls, if you will. Life design and coaching is another area that looks really promising, and higher ed is really primed to kind of do this. If they're aligning their curriculum to the skills, well, now they can provide really technical coaching methods Some of the work that Johns Hopkins University colleague Farouk Day has been discussing more recently in his Vision Chats, the future of jobs, internships, and higher ed in the COVID-19 economy. So that's certainly important. And last but not least, I've kind of woven this through, but that's the AI. Right? And AI doesn't stand alone. You need strong critical thinkers to be working alongside of artificial intelligence methodology to support this new normal in higher education.
Wow, I just wanted to underline the future of work has arrived early. What a great phrase. But finally, I want to thank you and AEFIS for being a leader in our nonprofit work at IMS Global Learning Consortium. Would you like to describe the impact, say a few words about the impact of the work of IMS in these times and related to this experience?
I mean, we certainly appreciate the opportunities that our team has had at AEFIS to work side by side with the best leaders in K-12 higher education and educational technology. We have been very, very active. As you know, our CEO, Mustafa Sulap, serves on the Digital Credentials Board. Our CTO, Özgür Yorkçu, also is a pioneer in CLR and has worked tirelessly on the working group for Comprehensive Learner Record. Clearly, as we adopt Comprehensive Learner Record standard, we're actually incorporating the components of the standard, right, within our development of Comprehensive Learner Record and what that might look like. I think, CLR standard being completely interoperable has been, huge for us, huge for our partners, and we are, grateful to the work and to be able to contribute to that work. I also think the other important component of that is what I was saying earlier about how, CLR standard incorporates a lot of the competency, transparency, data language that needs to be out there to kind of describe the credential information for machine readable applications. Again, that's that shift of the student kind of putting that information out there and those opportunities finding the student. So I guess, we're just really excited, if you haven't heard it in my voice, and passionate about the work that's being done at IMS Global, from CLR to open badges, and to obviously, the case network and having that competency exchange kind of out there. So as you know, AEFIS has a number of active certifications issued by IMS Global Learning, and we're lifelong learners as a company. And so we'll continue to want to work side by side with you as we continue to move forward in this very changing landscape.
Well, it's great to hear that. And thank you, Suzanne, for your insights. And thanks to our viewers for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you back here for more of our series on highly effective digital teaching and learning. This is Rob Abel saying bye for now, and let's keep the learning going.